All right, welcome everybody. This is a another installment of our Freshforward release notes review for Ultra 3908.82, and this time we are looking at, as you see on the screen, grade visibility for release conditions. Big, big, big exciting news, eh? So, um, with me, I've got Colleen, Faith, and Steven. So we're excited to go through this one and just kind of unpack this part of this most recent release.
Sure. So I think we should talk about what has changed, maybe from how this was behaving in Ultra prior to this release. So a lot of faculty would that have done the training, the Ultra training, and reach out to us would ask, how come when I use my release conditions, when I want to open up a window of availability for an assessment and then a closing time and therefore hide at the end of that period, why is it hiding both in the content area and also in the gradebook? And that was, it was just the way that things were running in Ultra for a while there. So you
Mhm.
would probably hear a lot of us advise faculty to avoid using the hide after function within the release conditions on assessments.
Yeah.
So the good news today, though, is that this has changed. So now when you use your release conditions, and we'll demo this in just a sec, when you do choose the hide after, it'll hide it from the content area, so the students won't see that assessment any longer up top, but they'll still be able to see it in their gradebook and their mark for that assessment in their gradebook. So
Mhm.
that's a really great update, I think.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think you mentioned this briefly, but just to really hammer home the point, the difference between hidden items and when we talk about release conditions is that those hidden items are it's like a what do we call it, like a hard stop, like you cannot see it. It's got a cloak of invisibility over it, whereas release conditions are it's a temporary sort of availability. Outside those release conditions, they're not supposed to be visible, but you just have this window of opportunity. So and Ultra seems to be leveraging that with this new release. So,
Great.
yeah, excellent.
So why don't we take a look at what we mean by the release conditions, where we find them, and how we use them.
Sure. Let me just zoom in on my screen here a little bit, and maybe we'll go full screen here. There we are. Finding the visibility settings on any of our items, you see as we go through each of our items, we have the drop down, which gives us visible, hidden, and release conditions. So it's available here. Let's just go to, so these items are, as they're created, made as hidden. And then we can switch that to visible. So now students can see it with no restrictions. And then we have release conditions, which opens up our menu here, and this is the feature we're going to be playing with, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so we'll stick with just all members for now and assume that this is a test
Hmm.
that we want open for the entire class. So that default for all members is good in our demo right now. And then we start by engaging with the top button there with the date and time. So that opens up a few more things. So you can see that you can select the show on date. So when do we want to make this available for students to not just see it, but also participate in the assessment, whether that's complete a test or maybe be able to submit or upload documents in an assessment or fill out short answer, long answer questions, that kind of thing. So we can do specific date and time. And then this is the area that's changed. We used to say, don't use the hide after because chances are you don't want that. It would hide it from the grade book as well when that date would come around. But this is the change. Now, when we select the hide after, so that could coincide with the due date and due date time for the assessment, it will
Sorry.
make it inaccessible for students in the content area, but it'll still show the grade in the grade book, which is awesome.
Yeah, and this is where we still kind of run into this issue is if you tried to make this due date earlier, as I was just about to, you see it's giving me a warning because it's we're trying to put it earlier than the actual due date. So what
Mhm.
we'll have to do is just save what we've got right now, adjust that due date to, let's make the due date later.
Okay.
Sorry, we'll change this quickly to or I guess we want it
earlier.
earlier. So we'll make this for today at 3:47.
5.
I think it's 3:47.
Okay.
Okay, let's do 3:45. That's a good idea because that'll be too long. Okay,
Mhm.
3:45, click save there. And so now my due date's a little bit earlier. I can adjust those release conditions again
Right.
and
And
say,
you're showing to another place where we can access release conditions
mm-hmm,
inside the assessment
yeah,
as well, not just on the content page, which is
yeah,
kind of handy.
yeah, right there.
Um, and so
So we'll
we'll
come in
change
here
this.
and change the date. Sorry. For today, we're going to make it show at 3:41. That's now, and we'll make it hide to today at 3:46.
So
There we go.
that's a good tip, right? So the show on and hide after days and times need to kind of bookend the due date, right?
Hmm.
The due date needs to be between those two times. So even just making the hide after a minute later than the due date time, day and time is a great tip.
Yeah. And then
Um,
this bottom option here allows you to choose whether or not you want it visible, like the item to be in the content before students click on it, which is great if you have a high stakes assessment that you want students to know that they know how to find it, then leave it at show.
mhm.
Otherwise, you can switch it to hide, but I like the show feature,
The
to be
show is
honest.
nice because they can see something's there, but they can't open it yet. So they just
Right.
know they got to wait until
That's right.
the release conditions start.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so colors, the colors test has release conditions on it, and I'm just going to change the numbers one. I'm going to change that to visible and get rid of those release conditions. So numbers it's just straight visible, and the colors has release conditions.
Okay.
Okay.
So now we're going to go into student preview mode and pretend that we're a student taking the test.
Yep. So we'll just click
Okay.
student preview up here, click start preview. And now
Mhm.
this is our preview user coming in. So we see both of our tests because this one's visible and this one, the release conditions are met. It's already past the time of the show time, but it hasn't passed the hide time. So let's start with maybe this one since the clock is running on that one.
Yeah.
So students are going to click on it and they're going to click start attempt. And here's our test. And we're going to fly through here and we're going to answer some of these questions quickly. Not really reading these just because I want some results and I don't want to waste everybody's time
Mhm.
watching me fumble
Sorry, we won't
over.
judge on your
Yeah,
grade.
thank you. My eyes are closed. You can't see it, so I'm yeah, yeah. It's definitely called a color wagon, and let's just go ahead and say that's enough
Yeah,
for
even for
today.
demo purposes
Yeah,
and for faculty too, if you're using the student preview mode, you don't necessarily need to
yeah.
do every
Uh,
question. Okay.
you can certainly review it and read through them, but we're going to stop there and
So
click
this,
submit.
yeah.
And so you see the students even, and this is good for the instructors to be aware as students are going to be warned, these questions didn't get answered. And we're just going to go ahead and say, that's fine,
Yeah,
submit.
that's nice.
Okay,
And
and
then there's
close.
a submission receipt. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the release conditions one.
Mhm.
And now we're going to open this folder up again. You can see I've completed this. The time hasn't elapsed yet, so this is still going to be visible because we're waiting till 3:46. My clock still says 3:44, but that gives us time to come over to the numbers test. And
Mhm.
we'll go in, start this attempt, and we're just going to quickly fly through here. And we're going to say, yep. And we're going to actually skip the matching question
Yep.
because I don't want to spend time doing that one. And I'll submit that as well.
Great.
Submit and close. Okay, so this student preview user has done two assignments, the numbers and the colors,
Mhm.
and the time has not elapsed yet, so it's still visible. We've got, I think, about 2 minutes. Do we want to talk any further then about student preview or anything else you want to highlight?
Yeah,
Sure.
I was going to say, Steve, do you want to share a little bit more about the student preview mode? Because I know a lot of faculty still may not know about that.
Yeah, and I think the student preview mode is an excellent tool that we sometimes take for granted. It's there for us to use. I think that when we are setting up our assignments or when faculty are setting up their assignments, it's always important to make sure that we are understanding it from the student perspective as well, to
Mhm.
see what they see. so that we are aware of it, so that if we can kind of troubleshoot any problems ahead of time. If they're going to enter in a way, or all of a sudden the way we're trying to do it, and as you saw Liam going through the questions all one by one, which is fine, you don't have to do every single question, but at least it shows you what the students will be receiving on there. And I think that's definitely an important thing that we sometimes gloss over when we're trying to set up our test, because we are so busy as faculty members, we don't really have necessarily time to go through the entire test and check it out. But it's important to kind of realize what they're kind of receiving on their end, and then we can kind of assess afterwards.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. And I think that was a wonderful length of time that you took there, because our clock has expired. Let me just go back to our content areas. So I've refreshed my page just to make sure things are working. And you can see here's the difference now. That numbers one is still visible to the students. We haven't adjusted the visibility on that. But this release conditions has said the content's not available. And as I hover over there, again, still as a student preview user, it says that you can't access this. It's only between these two times. So it also explains to students why they can't see it. And you see that little green lock there as well. It's complete and not available. Without leaving here, we'll go into this, the student's grade book, and you're going to see there's the numbers item. And then there's the colors test that we've just done, saying that it's not available. But this is the big change, eh, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is important. I think it's now showing it to the students. They get to see it, and they don't have the access to it, which I think a lot of faculty members were worried about when having to keep their tests online, so students could like check out their
That's
edits
right.
or check out any mistakes they made.
Yeah, so I can't click on this one, but if I come up to numbers, I can click on that and I can view my submission, because these settings are allowing that to happen, right? This is what's been set up. Let's demonstrate then. I'm going to quickly I'm going to exit here, and
So you
I'm
want to
going
click
to
on save here, yeah?
save that. Thanks, Stephen. We're going to save that data so that we can keep that as an example for that we can reference back as the instructors, because now as the instructor, I can come into the gradebook and I can see everything that that student has done. I see one of one submitted. So even if as an instructor you wanted to measure or assess, see how the assessments were going to work, you could do that. So we'll come into the content, and what we're going to do differently is we're going to take this numbers one and we're going to manually change that to hidden, and we're going to leave this one alone. So we've got this one is now, we've manually hidden that assessment, and this release condition is still up in play. We'll go back into student preview, start preview.
And what's important here, I think, is that because we saved it, it's all that preview user still logged into the system.
Right. As long as you keep saving that data, it's like that student's record and activity continues to exist. And here's the change. Now, as the student, I can't see the numbers test. And if I come into the gradebook, I can't see the numbers test. So that demonstrates, hopefully for everybody, the difference between using the hidden setting. Hidden is going to completely hide everything as far as the content goes, even the test results, whereas the release conditions is going to hide access, or it's going to limit access to the content, but it's not going to hide it away. So those are your two things. That's it for today, and we'll wrap up. See you guys next time. And I think next time we're going to talk about some of the gradebook enhancements, if I remember correctly. So
Yeah.
hope this has been helpful, guys. See you soon.
Bye.